meeting at 8:03 here. Dr. Randalls and Mr. LeGrand are both excused. Any public comment? Seeing none, hop right into it, Julie.
All right. Our first action item this morning is our third and final budget amendment for the current fiscal year. We have several changes that I would just like to highlight. We are in receipt of the special education lapse funds. That was about $1.9 million. A portion of that, or about 35% of it, went to our center program funds. The rest of it stayed for local. We are also in receipt of an increase of our Medicaid funding. And you'll note that in prior years, we've classified our Medicaid, the fee-for-service portion, under a state resource. However, we have been required to reclassify that to local. So you'll note that change, a decrease in our state revenue and an increase in our local. And we also have a slight increase in our Act 18 funds, which are our countywide special education property tax. And then the final change to our revenue that I'd like to highlight is the addition of the Section 147 revenue. We spoke about it at Monday evening's board meeting. We are required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board to record the revenue for the state's buy-down, if you will, of our retirement rate for our employees. So we are reflecting that amount in this current budget amendment. Those are the changes that we would like to highlight on our revenue side for our general operating fund.
Ms. Linear has a question.
For the special education piece, there weren't any numbers in the packet. Will we have those numbers spelled out in the, minutes so that people who are referencing this, at least when I pulled up the packet, I still have it up from when I pulled it up.
Okay.
It just had that there are additional funds, but it didn't have the did you say 1.2 million?
For the lapse funds?
Yeah. So the
Where
first,
were you looking to see them?
I was looking at the memo portion of the budget amendment.
Oh, and I didn't include that. If you go and look on page 7.
Okay. Okay.
That's the memo that provides a little bit more detail.
More of the detail, okay.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
I apologize. I thought Dr. Randalls was out of town. I thought you were out. I thought you had left for vacation.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I apologize.
tomorrow. Hey, that's quite all right. She can be David anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're just in
Yeah,
the
sorry for being
first.
late.
Oh, no, we're
Yes.
fine.
Yeah.
We just started. And we're on the first page of the memo, going through we just got done with the revenue portion.
Okay. Give Dr. Randalls a second here.
Oh, no, I was
Catch up,
already
you're good?
reviewing it this morning, so.
All right. All right, and then on our expenditure side, we have the related expense to the Section 147 recording of the revenue. We have the equal offset for our retirement rate buy-down. We have to record retirement expense to the same amount of revenue that we'll be receiving. We are also recording an increase in our tuition for our students who attend the KISD My School. And a few other. That is that new online program, correct? And then a few other related adjustments in the salary and benefit area for positions that ended up being unfilled the balance of the fiscal year since our last budget amendment. Any questions on the expense side? The general operating fund? The net result is Amendment 3 further reduces our usage of fund balance by about $2.5 million. So a year ago at this time, we thought we were going to use approximately $8.4 million of our fund balance. And now we're anticipating through this current budget amendment that we're presenting to this morning, a use of only $3.2 million.
Leaving the fund balance at, just for everyone's.
Leaving the fund balance a little over $18.8 million.
Which is closer to 15%, right? Or is that, okay, yeah.
And this doesn't account for, our general underspending. That, we'll expect to see a little bit of that. As people are conservative, and we're conservative in our budgeting, because we certainly don't want to end up over budget at the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
So there'll be a little bit left.
Oh, so that's good. I was assuming that this was some of the spending that we were seeing in this.
Yeah, a little bit, I would say, because we pulled down some of the budget that we had for salary and benefits for vacant positions, so that
Right,
would
if
attribute
they
for
were
some of
filled.
it.
Okay, so it does count for some of the underspending. And what's that anticipated number? In general? I'm bringing this up too because Paul Halder will often come to our board meetings rallying, or that we often, are underspending, and then we have these projected, and, so I just want to have do we generally have a feel for what we end up conservatively budgeting
$1 to
for?
$2 million,
Okay,
I would
so
say.
it's not a lot.
And we were able to, do timing this year, to account for some of those additional revenues where in the past, maybe we had finalized our last budget amendment, and then we received notice of getting extra resources such as increase in Medicaid or the special education labs funds. So we were able to get that ahead of time, so that is reflected in here. And in the past, sometimes that is attributed to that variance.
Great.
And I think it's important to note too that this, our fund balance percentage will be the highest, since pre-proposal A. Which is both a good and, obviously, we want to make sure we're spending the resources. But there was an explanation to that, was there not, Julie? Like, maybe give that so that it doesn't think we're just hoarding money.
Are you referring to the figures that are in the
Yeah,
operating budget? But when we get further in the packet, there is a percentage that we show every year. We kind of show our history of our percentage of our fund balance, of our general fund expenditures. And in that book, it includes all of our general fund and our grants as well. And we know our policy excludes grants because they can fluctuate, and next year will be a great example with the loss of that SIG money. It can really skew the amount of money you should have in your fund balance, so that we'd like to keep in our fund balance per our policy.
is there a motion to approve the budget amendment 3?
Motion to approve budget amendment 3.
Support.
Any further questions or discussions regarding budget amendment 3? All right, I have to do this on roll call, I would assume, no?
Do you want to do roll call just for the general operating fund? I have two other funds, the special revenue fund and the debt retirement fund, that we're also presenting a budget amendment. I didn't know if you want to do as one.
I think we should have to, because they're each individual resolutions, we probably should do each individual, just to make sure that we're correct here. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries 4-0.
All right. The second fund that we're presenting to this morning for requested budget amendment is our special revenue fund. It includes two major programs, our center programs, as well as our food service. Just some minor changes in center programs and adjusting our local tuition, and you'll know on the memo sheet, it says an increase in state foundation allowance. That should actually state a decrease in state foundation allowance to the $16,990, excuse me. Then the majority of the changes under the other special revenue column are related to our food service program. Changes to our salary and benefits, along with an increase in our food service costs.
Any questions regarding the special revenue fund? Is there a motion to approve the resolution for the budget, amended budget for the special revenue fund?
So moved.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Motion carries 4-0. All right.
Our third and final budget amendment for the current fiscal year that we're presenting to you this morning is for our debt retirement fund. And the reason for this amendment is due to the advanced refunding of the balance of our 2004 voter-approved debt, where we were able to achieve some savings in our interest. The rate went from a 4 to 5% variance to a little over 1% that we'll be paying on our interest. So I needed to reflect that transaction in a budget amendment for you.
That's great news.
Yeah, that is great news.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve the amended budget for the special revenue fund?
So moved.
Or, excuse me, debt retirement fund?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right, 2013-2014 budget I'd like to present to you this morning as well. I'm going to first go through page 20, which is the revenue side of the general operating budget. Just want to highlight a couple things here, and in particular, as we presented at Monday evening's board meeting, projecting a loss of 700 students, so you'll see a reduction in revenue there for the fiscal year. But I also just thought I'd highlight some of the differences, because this page compares the budget amendment that you just approved to move forward to the full board meeting on the 17th, and it reflects what we're proposing for 2013-2014, and you'll see on several of those lines there's a big shift. For example, under the local sources, the other line, it is a shift and decrease from $7.7 million in 2012-2013 to 3.4 in 2013-2014. The biggest component of that is the Blandford School construction. So that was recorded in our grants fund for this current fiscal year. And with the completion of that project, it's not recorded in 2013-2014. As well as the increase in our Medicaid funding. We pulled that back down because those were settlement payments, so it's not necessarily ongoing. Under the state sources, unrestricted, kind of the same thing. You'll notice it went from 80.8 million in 2012-2013 to 77.4 in 2013-14. About $1 million of that is the special ed lapse funds that we spoke about. As well, our Section 31A money is declining. We have been seeing over the past several years roughly a $400,000 to $500,000 decline in what we receive for Section 31A. The pot stays the same at the state level. They haven't changed that for years. And as students shift, and as the economy wasn't very good and is still trying to rebound, more students qualify. So our share of that pot, what we get per pupil, has actually been declining. So we've been experiencing, like I said, a $400,000 to $500,000 decline. So we used a little bit of our carryover. We have, as a part of underspending, spent with vacant positions, we've been able to carry over, and we've been using that to try to support as many positions as we can.
It's just commentary, not a question. I'm just really surprised there isn't just more public conversation about that in terms of school funding, that they're not changing, they're not responding the amount in response to the rise in poverty level. Seems like it should be a public discussion as an option for funding at this time.
It was certainly something that we can look to put on our legislative platform. Now that we were able to secure uses such as being able to reduce class size through the 12th grade, it's certainly something we can put on to start to draw some attention to that. And then under the federal sources restricted line, you'll notice that it was going from 40.6 million in the current fiscal year to 30.6 million and in the 2013, 2014 year, that is primarily and almost solely related to the SIG grant, the loss of the SIG grant.
Julie, which numbers then are sort of the classic school aid fund numbers then? You know, when people talk about that in our per pupil funding,
Yep.
which line item, or is it a combination?
It is a combination. You have the property taxes and the unrestricted state sources. Those two together make up our per pupil amount. And it's roughly 24%, 25% property tax, and the rest would be under the state unrestricted resources.
And in another page, for lack of a better word on this thing, it showed that it seemed like, in theory, our per pupil funding had increased a little bit to 7,100 versus 69. Yet we're seeing sort of a net decrease in funding. So really, our funding didn't increase.
Well, the per pupil went up a net total of $11.
Oh, right.
It was a $59 per pupil increase to our foundation amount. But there was a decrease related to that, the MIPSERS
Right.
offset credit that we had been receiving. So the net of which was $48 decrease, so the net is $11. Part of what's reflected in here, there was a loss, projected loss of 700 students.
Right, sure. Okay.
So you would see that decline.
Good, thank you.
Any questions on the revenue? Now I can change over to the expense on page 21. Just thought I'd highlight a couple things so that you, we had a better understanding on the instruction line. You'll note that in Amendment 3 for the current fiscal year, our instruction expenditures are a little over $107 million, and the proposed for 13-14 is a little over $101 million. About 2.4 of that is specifically related to our SIG grant as well. So as we see the reduction in revenue, we're going to see a reduction in our expense. And then this support services, the same thing, $99.5 million to $91.4. $7 million of that is related to our SIG grant. Facilities acquisition line, again, our Blandford School construction stands out here. That's what was reflected in that line.
Can you explain the increase in the community services? What exactly do those relate to?
Community services, the bulk of what's recorded there is our Title I money, what we have to set aside at least 1% of our Title I allocation for parent activities, as well the non-public portion of our Title I and our Title II is reflected in there. So as we work our way through the fiscal year, and if you look at the difference between Amendment 3 and the proposed for 13-14, Amendment 3 reflects a decrease because we kind of look at what have we spent and where do we think we're going to be through the end of the fiscal year, and we pull our budget down. The 13-14 would be what we were required to set aside, what the non-publics had in their full budget, and what we anticipate them spending throughout the entire year. So as we work through the course of next year, that will probably be adjusted as well.
Thank you.
So the net result for 13-14 is that we're planning on using about $7.5 million of fund balance that we're presenting to you this morning. Going from our anticipated ending fund balance for this current fiscal year of a little over $18.8 million. We're planning on ending our 2013-2014 fiscal year with about $11.3 million in our fund balance. Any questions?
What have you projected for our ending fund balance this year? What was a year ago? What was our projection?
A year ago, we thought we were going to be spending 8.4 of the 22.
I'm sorry, you went over that.
So we were planning on being at about $14 million.
Any other questions? And motion, is there a motion to approve the budget proposal to send to the full board?
So,
Additional discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Budget for 2013 carries.
All right, that was the general operating fund. Special revenue fund. Not a lot of changes here from the two fiscal years, other than what we shared with you at the board meeting on Monday evening as we work to, I believe Ms. Long shared, as we work to better service our students with IEPs and making sure that we're running an effective model for them. We are seeing staffing reduction in our center programs as well as our local. So that is reflected in the special revenue fund budget proposal for next year. Questions on that one?
Is there a motion to approve the proposed budget for the special revenue?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right.
Debt service, our third and final fund that we're bringing to you this morning for the 2013-2014 budget proposal. It's our debt service fund. We are looking at levying, again, 2.6 mills for this, which is the same number of mills that we're currently levying. No change there. We've held property tax values the same, which is the reason for this like mill levy that we're going to do. Any questions on debt?
Is there a motion to approve the debt service budget?
So moved.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries 4-0. Onward.
All right, under the reports and updates, we have our purchasing agenda for you today. Most of what is on this purchasing agenda is related to the 2013-2014 fiscal year. There are a couple of items on here that are related to this fiscal year. I just want to point those out so they don't get buried in everything. Page 58, sorry.
A lot of scrolling
Took us
today.
a minute. Yeah. Page 58 starts the purchasing agenda. You'll see the first several are related to our MIS department and our annual subscriptions and our maintenance support, some of our IT systems in the district. You'll note on number 9, requesting an increase to our library book blanket order to Follett. Number 10, I would just like to highlight, with all of the movement and part of our spending that we had anticipated for the transformation and being able to move all the technology around in the district. Talked about the need for assistance with that, so that's what that is, Moss Telecom, move our technology. And then the other item that's related to the current fiscal year is down under Roman numeral 2, special funds, letter B, for our Gordon Food Service for our Food Nutrition Services Program. Really should have come to you a little bit earlier than it did, so I just want to present to you our anticipating spending through the rest of this fiscal year, which is now over, but we wanted to be true to our policy, that this really needed to come to you sooner.
Any questions?
I have a question, number 11. Is that a shift from PESG?
No, it is, and it isn't a shift in PESG. Our contract is with the ISD. PESG has the contract with the ISD, so all the locals that participate, which is all except for a couple of them, we pay the intermediate school district, and the intermediate school district pays PESG, so the subs are still their employees.
Any other questions regarding the purchasing agenda?
Is this, some of the library, will that then be, I know Student Advancement Foundation has given us a lot of money in regard to doing the books. Ultimately, is that going to be a grant that they're providing to cover some of these costs, or?
There is.
Yeah.
I want to say it's $4 per pupil, that will be used to support that.
Great.
And we are, I'm glad you mentioned the Student Advancement Foundation. One of the things that Mrs. Hartwell and I talked about is because they do so much, and we kind of feel like we've piecemealed it in bringing donations to you. One of the things we talk about, and I will work with their new executive director on this, is to bring you one Student Advancement Foundation that we know at the beginning of the year, here are all their donations that we're anticipating. And then if there may be a couple that trickle in if there's a new project that comes up that they're willing to support. But then we just kind of feel like it would be more together. You'd see what the impact is that student advancement has for the district all at once.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then I guess I just have to clarify number 12, the athletic trainer only at 2 high schools, or do we have trainers at the other high schools, and this is just part of something regarding?
This is for next fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr.
right.
Yeah, so it's not for the current year. It's for next fiscal year.
And
having-
those are the 2 high
those are the
schools
two high
with
schools.
sports programs.
Correct.
All right, any additional questions? Is there a motion to approve the purchasing agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries 4-0. All right. Anything additional for you?
I have nothing else for you this morning.
Anyone else have anything that they need care to discuss this morning?
Sir?
I will not be calling in for the 24th, just
Okay.
till, so, and I think substitutes.
That's how we do it.
That's how John rolls.
All right, if you have nothing else, the meeting is adjourned.
Excellent.